Testing, one, two, three, testing. Hey, Pretty Girl Club. I am not editing this video because this is probably going to be a long one. So I'm just recording this. You're not going to see images or anything. So yeah, I just wanted to talk my shit today. I've just been in the mood to talk about this. And when it comes to decentering men and stuff like that, I kind of want to go into my background and my journey of like how I began decentering men and the things that I've learned about men throughout the years. So first of all, I guess I'll start off with a little bit of background. I don't mind exposing myself. I don't know if this video is going to stay up because I just feel like I'm going to be exposing myself a lot. Okay, so as far as dating, it depends on how far back you want to go. If you want to count like boyfriends or whatever, unfortunately, I have always had some sort of boyfriend or some sort of guy I've been talking to literally ever since kindergarten, which is bad. That's not a flex. That is a psychological problem. Anybody who knows me knows my history and my background of being male centered. This is before I started going on my like decentering journey. So it depends on how far back you want to go. Usually, when I talk about dating history, I tend to only count like after the age of 18. But depending on how far back you want to go, yeah, that's my history. But at the same time, I did not sleep around. Like, I've never slept around. I've never had casual sex or anything. I personally do not believe in that. I practice celibacy. I have practiced celibacy multiple times in the past, or like staying a virgin until a certain amount of time or whatever. So that's my background. So I also don't have the experience of like sleeping with a lot of guys and stuff like that. And that's just because of my own personal beliefs. That's for mental health reasons. And maybe I'll do another video about that. I just feel like a lot of guys were not deserving of my body. And part of it comes from my Christian background. And then even when I stopped being religious, I still kept that mindset because I'm just very selective when it comes to who I'm sleeping with and stuff like that. I don't just sleep with anybody. My body count is 3. I don't know. In terms of my body count is 3. Well, actually, I should say 2.5 because one of them, it was trash. But anyway, I'm only telling you guys this and I'm being very transparent because I just want you guys to get a grasp on when I say dating and when I talk about dating all these guys and stuff, I was not sleeping with the guys that I was dating. I've noticed that some people, they think that if you're talking to a certain guy or hanging out with him, it means that you're fucking him. No, in my case, in the past when I was single, my dating strategy was more so I didn't use sex to get what I wanted. I used other things like maybe certain parts of my personality or certain aspects of my femininity when it came to getting what I want. But I want to talk about black guys and my experiences with them because when I look at these divestors and I see them talking about like not being with black men or burning the cape and all that kind of stuff, the way that I view it is kind of like, wait, women were actually race loyal. I was never racially loyal towards black men to begin with. I never saw it as, oh, I'm going to marry a black guy when I grow up or I'm going to be with a black guy. I never saw it like that. And another thing that I've noticed is that, like, if you have a black father in your life, especially if you have kind of this multiracial black background, like myself, I've noticed that there's this stereotype that if your dad is an unambiguous dark skinned black man and he actually raised you, then you're going to automatically be loyal to black guys or like my YouTube channel is me defending black men or something. That's laughable to me because I was actually never race loyal towards black men. And even my father, he never taught me to be race loyal towards black guys. And by the way, I did grow up in a 2-parent home. My parents are still married to this day. I actually come from like 5 generations of pastors on my dad's side. So my dad, he's an unambiguous black man. And I will say though, even though my dad, he never explicitly said, you should get with a black guy, I noticed that he would kind of like promote black men or he would kind of like hype up black men that were in my vicinity. So, for example, you guys know that I come from an affluent white background. And so anytime there was some sort of black guy that would pop up in my community, which was very rare, actually, no black guys were in my exact hometown. But anytime we were at certain church events or something when I was growing up or when I was in my early 20s, sometimes my dad, he would kind of hype up certain guys, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, did you meet Jeremiah or did you meet?" I'm just making up names. He'd be like, "Did you meet Tyrone? Did you meet Jeremiah? Oh, did you talk to Emmanuel?" So he might say stuff like that, but I don't consider that to be promoting because my dad, I wouldn't call him the most pro-black man in the world. In fact, I feel like a lot of pro-blackness is actually performative, whether it's coming from my father or it's coming from Kendrick Lamar. I just feel like pro-blackness in general, people they practice fake outrage based on like popularity, and I just feel like it's not a real thing like how people think it is. So, when I talk about my dating experience, I'm going to include mixed black men, biracial black men, or quote unquote exotical men. That's not a real term. I don't know why I just made that up. But I'm including them in this video because I just feel like they can relate. I can relate to some of the experiences that some of the women talk about. So, I guess I will start off when I was growing up. So, whenever I was growing up and I was in the Black community, I noticed that a lot of Black mothers, when I was a child, you guys saw my story time about how they would fawn over my phenotype or my hair or whatever. So, a lot of Black mothers, they would actually kind of train their sons to like me. So, I've noticed a social dynamic whenever I came across an older Black woman. She was always trying to hook me up with her son. Most of the time, her son was a Dusty. Sorry, not sorry. But a lot of older Black women in the church or like at my HBCU and stuff, they would be like, "Oh, did you meet my son David? Oh, yeah, this is my son Joshua. Oh, yeah, this." Like they would try to introduce me to their sons. And so I actually feel like Black women that I was around, they were more so the ones that were promoting being with Black men, like being super race loyal. So I do agree with some of the divestors when they say that a lot of Black women are very race loyal and very Black male centered. And I feel like a lot of Black women, they wanted to introduce me to their sons because they kind of assumed that their son would like be attracted to me or something, or they assumed that I was like somehow wifey material, probably because of my background. So that's one thing that I noticed is kind of the pick me culture amongst Black women. And then when I went to an HBCU, oh my God, it was like a psychological jackpot, just like examining all of the women. So the first thing I noticed about Black women's general interactions with Black men was that if this Black guy, if he was tall or if he had muscles or if he had some sort of thing that made him attractive, if he was mixed, if he was a light skinned Black guy, anything that made him appear attractive, if he had some money or something, maybe he was popular, he had status. The women who were more bottom tier, they would like chase after these guys desperately. Like I'm talking about these guys, they could just have a rotation or whatever. And this is more so in college though, so we were all young. I do think a lot of younger girls, they may struggle with being pick me's a lot more because they're just young. So myself included, for sure. But one of the things that I started noticing when I was at an HBCU was so I was very like focused on my goals and stuff. And I noticed that with the Black guys, sometimes they would get upset at me because they could not trauma bond with me. So the same thing that I've noticed with Black women on YouTube, like when they talk about colorism, texturism, featureism, going through all these different isms and like not feeling represented in Hollywood, not having these positive feminine role models, feeling masculinized and stuff. I cannot relate to a lot of those traumas on the same level as others. And so I actually experienced the same thing with Black men. So, for example, one thing I noticed about Black guys in dating scenarios is that they would automatically start talking about struggle, like out of nowhere. They would start talking about, like, oh, yeah, I'm from the hood, or like, my dad wasn't around. Almost like immediate trauma dumping. I've noticed that in any sort of dating scenario, or like the guy really wanted to talk to me or something, he would start off by trying to form a trauma bond. And I noticed that when I didn't want to trauma bond, or like, I like positive attention where it's like he's complimenting me, he's being kind and sweet to me. So I don't want to just automatically talk about how bad it is to like be another Black man caught up in the mix trying to make a dollar out of 15 cents. That's not a good dating strategy. That doesn't make you look attractive to me. So I feel like part of the reason why I was never really loyal towards Black men or anything is because them talking about struggles and trauma, that makes me repulsed. I mean, I just have to be completely honest. Why would I want to tie my life to someone who admits out of their own mouth that their life sucks, that they're at the bottom, that they may get killed walking down the street. I don't want to live a life of stress like that. I don't want to live a life where I'm like stressed out that my boyfriend's going to get shot on his way home, or like he's going to get pulled over, then they're going to like arrest him and choke him and shit. Or like that he's going to get mixed up with another black guy and then he's going to get arrested. I don't want to live my life with that type of stress. And so that's one of the reasons that I feel like a lot of black men, they never really made it past the talking stage, because within the first couple of days, they would automatically start talking about how hard it was. And I felt like it's almost as if they wanted sympathy sex or sympathy dates, or they wanted me to kind of empathize with them. I've noticed that in the black community, there's this overemphasis on empathy. There's this overvaluing of being empathetic and having sympathy towards people. So like a lot of people critique me. They're like, you're not showing empathy towards black women. You're not showing empathy towards black men who are like, they've been downtrodden by society. They've been punching bags by everyone. And it's like, empathy, yes, that's a good quality, but guess what? I practice selective empathy. So I'm only giving you my empathy if I feel like you deserve it. If I don't see you showing empathy for me specifically, then I'm not showing you shit. And I've noticed in the black community, there's almost like this entitlement where it's almost like this victim mindset where you want people to view you as a victim and automatically show you empathy and feel sorry for you. And it's like this attempt at social climbing, or this attempt to get sympathy sex. It's this attempt to get a woman to date you and give you a chance. You know, why don't you give short guys a chance? Why don't you give bald guys a chance? Why don't you give Nigerian men a chance? I've noticed that a lot of black men, they would come at me with that sort of rhetoric, almost like entering into the dating pool as like this victim, like, you know, you should give me a chance, otherwise you're racist. So the same thing that a lot of black women have said, if you don't date me, you're colorist. I've had black men try to play that with me as well. So that's one of the reasons. It's the trauma bonding thing. Like they'll get pissed off if I can't trauma bond with them. Another thing I noticed with a lot of black men in the dating scenarios was stereotypes. So unfortunately, black men have not gotten along with me very well in the past because they have definitely stereotyped me as stuck up, you know, a stuck up bitch. I've been cussed out walking down the street because a black guy will try to like holler at me. He'll be like, hey baby, what's up? How you doing? You know, he'll try to like talk to me, and then I'll keep walking. Like I will literally look someone dead in the eye and then ignore their ass. Or I will just not look at them and I'll keep walking, or I might roll my eyes, you know, and then they'll be like, well, fuck you, bitch. Like they start cursing, they get very angry. I've noticed some of them, they can't handle rejection because they've already been rejected by society, or they feel like they've been rejected by society sometimes. And I've kind of noticed actually the same thing in some women as well, where sometimes there's almost like this inherent feeling of being rejected. And so then if somebody rejects you in terms of dating, then you automatically tie it back to blackness. And it's like, no, dude, I don't talk to guys on the street. That's what it is. It's not because you're black. It's because I'm walking down the street and I don't date guys that I meet on the street. But I noticed with unambiguous black men, in my experiences with them, they did a lot of stereotyping of me. So I don't mind a couple of jokes here and there. I don't mind like being flirty and playful and stuff. That's fine. But I have legit had black guys call me stuck up, call me a bitch, call me conceited. They'll say things like, oh, you think your shit don't stink, you know, stuff like that. And it's like, okay, you're telling me all this and then you expect me to say yes when you ask me on a date? Are you insane? It's the lack of social skills for me. It's the inability to read the room for me. So how are you going to call me a stuck up, conceited bitch and then literally say, oh, but I still want to take you on a date though? Absolutely not. You've got me all the way fucked up. So another thing that I've noticed with black men, so by the way, like I said, I'm including mixed race black men as well. So this is something I've actually noticed more so with MLS men, mixed race black men, light skinned black men. And by the way, for reference, as far as who I attract the most, I do attract men of my phenotype the most. And, you know, that happens to be what I date generally. So maybe like a multiracial black guy, multicultural, whatever, light-skinned black, whatever you want to call it. But I've noticed with these types of guys, sometimes there's almost like this rivalry due to them being pursued a lot by unambiguous black women. So this is something that I started noticing when I went to an HBCU. So first of all, we all know that in college in general, there are less men than women. If you go out in a social setting in general, there are going to be less men than women. And I talked about this on the Patreon. I've done people watching of thousands of Black people, whether they're mixed Black or monoracially Black. And generally speaking, any social setting you go out to, you're going to see more women than men. And so if there's an attractive guy there, and I noticed a lot of Black women, they don't want to admit that they are attracted to like kind of like the Barack Obama type of guy, or like the Michael Ealy type of guy, or like a Chris Brown type in some cases, kind of like this thug thing. So a lot of the guys like that, where maybe they had my phenotype or maybe they had my racial background, those guys were heavily chased by a lot of unambiguous Black women. And then we all know over here, a lot of us, because of our phenotypes, we get heavily chased as well. And so I noticed actually sometimes at my HBCU, sometimes guys that had my phenotype, they would like be jealous almost. I don't want to say they would be jealous of me, but like kind of. Like it almost seemed like some of them were jealous of me, or it seemed like some of them they were not used to having to do the pursuing of a woman because they just kind of sit around. I've noticed this actually with Black men as a whole, not just like mixed race Black men, but with Black men as a whole, I've noticed a lot of them lack the ability to pursue a woman. And so they'll just let the bottom tier pick-me's chase after them, but then they don't want the pick-me's. They're not satisfied with the pick-me's. They would still rather go after women like us on this channel. They would still either go after women like us, or they literally get pissed off at women like us who feel like we're too good to do the chasing. And then they'll call us modern women, like what you see in the red pill space. Have you ever noticed that these red pill types of guys, they never get with the pick-me's? They don't go for the women who chase after them. They may use them or something like that, and they may allow those women to build them up, but then they will still be focused on women like myself. So I noticed that dynamic when it came to a lot of Black guys of all shades and of all races. So they were used to being pursued by a lot of the lower tier. I don't like calling it lower tier, but I don't know what else to call it. I'll just say low self-esteem. That's what I mean when I say lower tier. I'm not saying like they're worthless or anything, but I just mean the women who were more desperate. So that's what I'm calling low tier. But those Black guys, they were used to being chased by the low tier Black women. And so I noticed those guys, they would complain. And then they would say things like, none of the pretty girls want me, or like none of the bad bitches want me. They would make these complaints like all the pretty women are taken up or all the beautiful women are taken up. But then I would be thinking, wait a minute, you have like 15 girls that are chasing after you all the time. So like, what are you talking about? All the good ones are gone. So are you saying that you devalue the women that are in front of you? And I noticed that's exactly what it was. So a lot of the Black guys, they were used to being pursued and chased by these pick-me Black women who reminded me of the pick-me Black mothers that I came across when I was younger. So these are women who are very desperate for marriage, very desperate for love. That's another thing I noticed, unfortunately, in the Black community. Has anyone else noticed that the Black community is obsessed with relationships? I believe that poor people in general are the most obsessed with relationships. I said what I said. This is because of codependency. So I've noticed that sometimes poor women, they're obsessed with hypergamy. You know, they're the most obsessed with catching a rich man or whatever because they're poor, they're underprivileged. You know, they live in the ghetto, or they have bad credit, or they don't have anything going for themselves in terms of money and career. They can't provide for themselves. And so they're hoping that some man will come and save them. I noticed a lot of Black men have done the same thing as well, where they're very codependent. And so they're very desperate for a relationship because they need a woman to go 50-50, to build him up, to make him have status finally, you know, to restore his broken self-esteem, to make him feel like he's not at the bottom of society. So I noticed almost like this codependency in a lot of the Black men that I was around, like in college, the ones that tried to date me and stuff. But I remember there was this one guy in college who liked me, supposedly. So he was, oh, and by the way, I forgot to say, most of the Black men that I've been around, for the most part, they weren't like thugs, because I don't even hang out. I'm not from the hood. I wasn't raised in the hood. The most experience I've had in the Black community has been at an HBCU, and then also as an adult, kind of living in these more affluent Black communities. So think of like the upper middle class in Atlanta or something like that. That's more so kind of the Black people that I've been around. So I remember when I was in college, there was this one guy who liked me. And by the way, this is a part of why I don't date fraternity guys. So he was a part of a fraternity, and he was trying to pursue me, and he was trying to talk to me and stuff. So we would talk on the phone and all that. And by the way, that's another thing I don't like. I've noticed that about Black men. There's a lot of like talking stage, and there's not as much like going out on formal dates. I've noticed that they're pursuing, I don't really like their dating style. I feel like a lot of Black men, they have no actual courting or dating strategy because they weren't raised by their fathers, on how to take a woman out on a date, how to get a woman to like you, how to wine and dine a woman. So I've noticed that whining and dining culture, that's actually not a part of Black culture from what I've experienced. So for the most, I've literally seen more Black women taking themselves out or going out in a large group of women to brunch or whatever versus seeing a lot of Black men taking women out. And this is just overall. Like, even if I'm out with my boyfriend, if we go to a restaurant or something, or if I'm going out somewhere, for the most part, any other couples I see, usually there is not a Black man in the couple. Usually it'll be like a white guy with a white woman or some sort of other race. So I've noticed the whining and dining thing, a lot of Black guys have not been good at that. And so that's another reason why a lot of them, they've never really made it past, I guess, kind of the talking stage. But in college, there was this one guy who liked me, supposedly. He was like a fraternity guy. And I remember he knew all about my background. He knew that I was like a Christian at the time, and I was like, very conservative. And so I remember he took me on a date, and like the date went well and everything. And basically, as we continued talking after the date, so this was also another mistake. This is a part of why I no longer even have guy friends. But I noticed that after he took me on a date, when I basically said, like, I refuse, I'm not gonna like sleep with guys. I basically laid out my standards because he was making it like he really wanted me to be his girlfriend or whatever. And so I laid out all of my standards, and then I noticed that he obviously could not meet the standards. He was too dusty to meet the standards. And he would talk the talk. I noticed he was a very smooth talker. He would always try to come visit me or whatever. He would like kind of keep track of where I would be on campus. He would always come try to talk to me. So he did a very good job at hyping me up and flirting and whatever, and texting and calling and all that stuff. But as far as him actually meeting the standards, he couldn't meet the standards. So for example, I don't drink or smoke. This guy that I was talking to at the time, he was a drinker. He wasn't a smoker, but he was a drinker. Also, I feel like the Black fraternity culture, I didn't like I didn't like the fraternities. I mean, just being honest, I didn't like kind of hanging out at the little frat house type of thing just to like be around him. And then it's a bunch of drunk ass dudes, and they smell bad, and they're like yelling and shit. And then this guy, you would have thought on the surface that he would be very classy, right? Because you would think, oh, he's an HBCU student just like me. This guy, he's in a fraternity. And I thought at the time, I was very young. So I thought that these Black fraternities were supposed to be like kind of helping the Black community. And I was like, he has a good job. He's very much like how I am. This guy literally, we met up and we went to a party. That's another ratchet. That's not a date. You're going to a party together. That's not a date. You're literally going somewhere so you can like shake your ass on him. That's not, anyway, sorry. That was ratchet. So we went to a party, and this dude literally starts getting violent with people. So basically what happened was they were doing their stupid stroll thing, and like a guy, he got into the stroll. So like he accidentally went in while they were strolling, like he bumped into him or something. And then one guy started pushing the other guy, and then the other guy started pushing the other guy. And then they all got into this big ass, ghetto ass fight. And it literally, I swear to God, I'm not kidding. It got to the point where somebody shot off a fucking gun. Somebody shot a gun. Imagine trying to date and you think that you're with someone classy, and you end up in a fucking party where somebody fires off a gun. That's the type of shit I'm talking about. So I noticed that their pursuit of like trying to get a girlfriend and stuff, they're just not strategic. They don't know how to take women to like a classy environment. And yeah, technically I was young when that happened at an HBCU. I was a college student. I was technically like a teenager or early 20s. But still, that's ratchet. I just feel like that wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have been in a Black environment. So thank God that I actually got pissed off and ghosted and left, because I was like, this is too ratchet for me. So that's another thing, kind of like they're bad at pursuing. But also, I noticed that with this guy, so after I stopped talking to him because he literally put me at risk, I felt like I was at risk of being hurt. I could have actually been killed. So obviously, I didn't talk to him. And then he tried to be like, oh, like, I'm sorry, like, that's not what I was trying to do. And because I had kind of cut him off, then he immediately became like my rival, for lack of better words. So I almost feel like I call it the light skin rivalry. But no, I feel like he got pissed off because he thought that because he was kind of like professional and had things going for him, he thought that I would kind of like let that slide because other women, other girls at the university, they thought he was cute or whatever. They would like kind of pedestalize him. They would pedestalize him just like how they would pedestalize me. And so he thought that like hopefully I would overlook some of his ratchet behaviors and still like want to talk to him. And so then when I didn't, then he got pissed off and then he started doing the same thing that a lot of other black men do, which was calling me stuck up, saying I'm conceited, saying I think I'm better. I remember he started talking shit about me. And by the way, we never even became boyfriend and girlfriend because I never even let it get that far. Like I said, most guys, they don't even make it to like the second date or like, so it never even became a thing. But this guy was still, he was so pissed. It was almost as if he viewed me as his girlfriend or something, even though I wasn't. So I remember he would try to do certain things to like make me jealous on purpose. And then even my friends in college, they were like, "Oh, he's trying to get your attention. Oh, he's trying to make you jealous. He's trying to do this." And I remember thinking, "Yeah, this is insane. This is like psychotic behavior." But another reason that a lot of black men have not really succeeded with me is because a lot of them don't believe in therapy or counseling. So I've noticed this cultural thing. I'm just going to tie it back to African American culture just in general. I don't really think it's the women though. I actually think that black women have kind of progressed further than black men in like pretty much every area, just being honest. But a lot of the black men that I had been around, even if they were in a professional setting, a lot of them, they've never been to therapy. They don't know anything about like emotional intelligence. And to be fair, this is something that I've noticed with every group of men. By the way, I am going to make this into a series. I'm going to be talking about every group of men, but I'm starting it off with black men. And that's the thing that I noticed, though, about them in particular. It's almost as if they don't believe in therapy or counseling because if I was talking to a Christian black man, like let's say I dated a Christian black man, which I have before, like let's say there's a Christian black guy that's trying to talk to me. If I bring up like, hey, what do you think about overcoming depression? Like how do you deal with stuff like that? How do you deal with stress? Usually they would say comments like, oh, I just pray or I just give it to God. But I'm smart enough to know that anytime somebody says that, generally speaking, that's a cop out answer because you can pray about something, but that doesn't mean that you're no longer going to feel the emotions. And so I've noticed with a lot of black men who have tried to talk to me in the past, they lack emotional regulation. That's a thing that I've noticed in the black community as a whole. Lots of people in the black community tend to lack emotional regulation. It's very easy to emotionally dysregulate them. Like if you're a black guy trying to talk to me, all it takes is me looking at you a certain way. Boom, you're angry. All it takes is me walking past you on the street and not responding to your cat call. Boom, you throw a drink on me. By the way, that has happened to me before. I've had a guy throw a drink on me for not talking to him. This is a guy on the street. So he just had a cup of God knows what. He was sipping on something and he tried to talk to me. He was trying to follow me. And I just gestured to him like, no, thank you. And then I put my earphones in. And then he said, bitch, fuck you. And then he threw his whole entire drink on me. I've had drinks thrown on me multiple times, actually, not just by black men, though. And we're going to get into that in some other videos. So this whole mindset of only black guys behave a certain way and non-black guys do not behave a certain way. Nope, that's actually not true. I've had drinks thrown on me before by a non-black guy. But that's something else I noticed. A lot of the black men, they would get very easily riled up. So like with the guy that tried to date me, then he randomly gets in a fight or like, somebody goes into the little fraternity stroll and then he starts punching the guy. Like that's what I mean when I say very emotionally dysregulated. Like all it takes is somebody bumping into you and then boom, you're punching them. Or all it takes is me walking past you and then I don't speak to you and then boom, you throw a drink on me. Another thing that happened was one of my ex-boyfriends, he had like a multiracial black background. And so we dated and I dumped him because, it wasn't working out. He was just too dusty for me. And I'm going to get into that in a second. But he literally stalked me. So he stalked me to another state. So not just, oh, he's stalking me, like, oh, he's just following me. Not only did he do that, because he did do that as well. This was in college, actually. Not only did he follow me around in college because he kind of knew my class schedule from when we were dating. So he followed me around. He began stalking my friends. His friends and family started calling me. So this is another red flag that I noticed about a lot of Black men: codependency. Why is your mother calling me when I dumped you? That's insane to me. Why is your mother calling me? Why is your sister messaging me on Facebook? Why is your brother messaging me on Facebook? So extreme codependent behavior, stalking behavior. And I feel like this ties back to not believing in therapy or counseling, or, just not being knowledgeable about mental health and stuff. So I've noticed that with a lot of the Black men that have tried to pursue me in the past, a lot of them don't realize how mentally handicapped they are, or how emotionally handicapped they are. And so they're over here thinking that, like, this is totally normal. Like, yeah, I can just stalk somebody. And then this guy, he literally was trying to stalk my sex life because he knew that, like, I'm not the type that just goes and sleeps with everybody or whatever. So he was asking people around campus, like, oh, has she fucked anybody? Like, has she slept with anybody? Who is she talking to? It was just insane. And I remember this ex in college. So we had been broken up for a very long time. He was already blocked on everything. And this guy, he hears a rumor that I had started talking to this new guy. He hears a rumor that this new guy was talking to me, this other Black guy, obviously, because it's an HBCU. This guy, he decides to change his Facebook status and say that he's in a relationship. And then he decides to pull up some deleted archives of photos that we had taken together. You know how when you have a boyfriend, you take like lovey dovey photos of kissing and stuff like that, yourselves kissing. So he decided to change his fucking Facebook status and say that he was in a relationship. And then he posts pictures on Facebook, on Instagram. He posts pictures of myself and him all over social media so that it looks like me and him got back together. And he was doing this as an attempt to sabotage the other Black guy. So that's another example of just like extremely emotionally dysregulated behaviors, stalking. And by the way, this ex, he was one of the ones who said, "I think my shit don't stink." And I'm like, that's the most random. That's actually like not a diss, because you're basically saying, I think I'm the shit. So thank you. But yeah, so he was insane as well. Another thing I've noticed about Black guys who have tried to date me is they're anti-spiritual. So they kind of disrespect my moral beliefs, or they kind of disrespect. I'm not even spiritual anymore, but they used to disrespect my spiritual or religious beliefs, or they would kind of disrespect my boundaries of, like, I don't want to just have sex with anybody because I don't want to get into a soul tie. But then he's still trying to like talk to me, or still trying to get sexual and stuff. So there's like a lack of spiritual boundaries. Or if he is a Black man that is spiritual in any way, he is the extreme. I'm talking Black pastor, like super misogynistic, basically super misogynistic type of Christian guy. Or there's the other one, which is the hoteps. So the extreme hotep types of guys, where it's like they almost have this cult like mindset where it's almost like they're trying to brainwash you. But I've noticed whenever Black men tried to groom me, they were never successful at grooming me, because Black men, in my experience, have tended to be more violent and more argumentative and aggressive when they're trying to convince me of their beliefs. But yeah, that's something else. They're either anti-spiritual, or they're an extreme spiritualist, like a hotep, or like an extreme Christian guy. So actually, I have another story about this one. He was like this light-skinned Black guy. So this guy was literally, he was an accountant. He was not just an accountant. He was actually an accountant manager. So he was a manager of other accountants, and he was extremely religious, and he tried to like pursue me or whatever at work. So this is when I'm an adult. This is not at the HBCU. This is as a full-grown adult. This man was in his 40s. So he tried to talk to me or whatever, and I was like, okay, like he seems really nice. Like, yeah, like we can talk. So he starts talking about his Christian background. He's from the South. He was very chivalrous, and like he was a gentleman at first. And then I basically was like, what made you want to talk to me? I was kind of asking him, like, why was he interested in me, just to get a gauge on, like, why he wanted to talk to me. And this guy literally says, like, oh, it's because you're, like, my type. And then I had told this guy, I was like, that I'm not really religious like how you are, right? And by the way, this guy was extremely religious. Like I'm talking about a church going, tongue talking, he only he watches Christian sermons and stuff. He was the type of guy that would like share sermons on Facebook, just devoutly religious. And then I told him, I was like, yeah, I'm not really religious, even though I come from that background. And I feel like my personality matches a lot of religious women in a way because I'm more conservative with my body. Like I don't just sleep with everybody or whatever. But I was like, yeah, why do you still want to talk to me? And he's like, oh yeah, because you fit the type that I want. You have the exact like look that I want, basically. So it was giving fetishizing. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what do you mean by I'm your type? You guys already know I'm going to be a troll. So I was like, well, what do you mean I'm your type? Like, what is your type? And he was like, oh, my type is Beyonce. And I was thinking, okay, so you're basically admitting that you are talking to me because you think that I look like a secular, worldly singer, and you're supposed to be this Christian, oh, man of God. Like, you're talking about how your type is basically a worldly woman like Beyonce. She is not a Christian. She twerks and does all this, non Christian shit. So, how is it that you are such a devout man of God? I thought he was going to say, like, oh, my type is more like, I don't know, like Joyce Meyer or like Sarita Jakes or Sarah Jakes, someone who's like a woman of God or whatever. No, this guy literally says Beyonce. And then later on, I find out that he is actually a porn addict. And by the way, I told you guys that I practice celibacy. So this is during a time where I was practicing celibacy. Like whenever I'm just single and I'm just dating and stuff, I don't have sex or anything. So he knew that I was like being celibate. He was also being celibate as well. And it was due to his Christian background. So I'm thinking in my mind, wait a minute. So you're a devout Christian. And by the way, he would try to preach to me and shit. He would randomly try to like lecture me and stuff. So that's another thing I've noticed, not just with him, but with other like religious black men that I've been around, like Christian black men. There's this need to brainwash you. Like they will try to convince you of their beliefs. They'll try to like convince you to believe the same thing as them. But then these guys have the audacity to be attracted to or try to pursue a worldly woman. Like I directly told this guy, and he was black. I directly told him, I am not a Christian anymore. I'm not a Christian anymore. I am not, I'm backslidden. I told him, I was like, I am a backslidden Christian. I am not Christian anymore. I abandoned it. So like, I'm not a woman of God. And by the way, that directly goes against what it says in the Bible. It says, do not be equally yoked in the Bible. And so I just felt like the hypocrisy was so extreme, not just with him, but with other black guys I've been around as well. I feel like a lot of black men that I've encountered, they will be a spiritual hotep or a Christian or whatever until they want some sex or until they want to pursue a certain woman. Then everything else goes out the window. And I've seen this over and over again with like the cheating black men in the church. Like I've had a black married pastor ask me on a date. He was married. And another time I had a black pastor ask me to twerk on him. Yeah, a black pastor literally asked me to shake my ass on him and to like grind on him. So extreme hypocrisy, that's a pattern that I've noticed with a lot of black men, especially the black men who claim to be very spiritual, like extremely, I'm a hotep or I'm some sort of Christian or man of God. No, I'm sorry, but that's another reason why they've never made it past. A lot of them haven't made it past the talking stage because I immediately noticed these hypocrisies and I'm like, no, I can't deal with it. Something else I noticed with a lot of the black men that I had encountered in a dating setting was a lot of them are not good when it comes to logical thinking. So, for example, I had met another guy where he had money, but he lived with roommates and he was like trying to save money. And I was thinking, wait a minute, if you really wanted to save money, you could have lived in a studio apartment by yourself, or you could purchase a house, maybe like a small, kind of cheaper house in another neighborhood. Because I had met other people, white guys or whatever other race, where they will just get a house and like maybe the neighborhood is not as good, but it's cheaper. So I've seen a lot of black guys make horrible financial decisions. That's why I say like there's a lack of logic there. So it's like, okay, you're living with roommates and you're living in an apartment, but you are driving a Tesla. Like that doesn't make logical sense. Like, what do you mean you're trying to save all this money, but then you have like this nice ass car and you're paying a high ass car payment? It just doesn't make sense to me. And so for me, as a person that was an accountant, I just feel like that's not very smart financially. So that's something else I noticed with a lot of black guys, lacking in logic. And that also leads me to the next point, which is financial illiteracy. A lot of black guys that have tried to date me have not been good with money. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I'm not a fan of like broke guys in general. And so the guys that have tried to talk to me, generally speaking, they do have these really good professional careers. It could be like an accountant, an engineer, some sort of tech guy or something like that. But I've noticed a pattern where a lot of black guys, they're very bad with money. I'm talking about literally tricking off their money. Like there's one guy that tried to date me in the past. He literally admitted to tricking off his money. And by the way, I know that like some guys they could be lying. So maybe they say, "Oh, I've never paid for prostitutes or whatever," and they actually have. Oh, that's another thing as well that I noticed with a lot of black guys. They have like this obsession, but also a hatred for sex workers. I've noticed a lot of black men have been very dependent on sex work or sex workers, whether it's OnlyFans girls, whether it's real life prostitutes. So I've encountered men who deal with sex workers, but as far as men who deal with real life prostitutes, like on the street or like, on OfferUp or on all these websites, yes, I literally said OfferUp. I've seen a girl selling her body on OfferUp. But I know that women can sell their bodies on social media. And as far as the men that I've met that actually solicit a lot of prostitutes, it's been black men. It's actually been black men. And I'm not saying that other races of guys can't do that because I do. There is another racial group that I'm thinking of right now. And I've seen some of them solicit prostitutes as well. But a lot of the black guys that I've been around, the ones with a lot of money, a lot of them have had a history with like sex addiction or being addicted to sex workers or and I think it ties back to the inferiority complex, feeling like he's not desirable, and so the prostitutes and stuff, that gives him a feeling of being desirable. Sorry if you hear like fire trucks in the background, but if you are a prostitute, no shade towards you. You guys know I'm actually pro sex. I'm pro sex work. So if you're a sex worker, it's not against you. It's more so because the black guys that I've met, they will lie and pretend like they're just this holy, self-righteous type of guy, or they will try to pretend like they're really wholesome, or sometimes they'll even look down on these women that are like whores. And then you'll find out later on that like, oh no, he is soliciting prostitutes. And that leads me to my next point, which is lack of sexual discipline. I've noticed that a lot of the serial cheaters that I've come across have been black men. And I'm talking about extreme serial cheaters, like you need a minimum of like 5 women, or like extreme fetishization. So I've come across guys where, they may try to pursue me and like he's black. So for example, this one light skinned black guy that I dated, so he was like treating me special or whatever, trying to date me. And then I found out that he actually had a specific sexual fetish for my exact phenotype, my exact hair color, height. He really liked tall, kind of taller, slimmer, hourglass, light skinned black women with long black hair. And I found out about it because one of my mutual friends told me about it. And then basically, like, long story short, he ended up getting exposed. It was like this whole thing. And he literally had a pattern of going out and specifically trying to sleep with all of the women that he knew that looked exactly like me. And so just weird behaviors like that, where it's like, extreme solicitation of prostitutes, extreme sexual fetishes to where you are specifically seeking out a certain woman and then trying to sleep with as many of those particular women as possible because you feel like that raises your status. And also just lack of sexual discipline in general. That is a pattern that I've noticed with a lot of black men, to the point where they will violently, unfortunately, the guys who have like molested me when I was younger and done stuff like that, unfortunately, the most violent ones or most aggressive ones have been black men. And so I am unfortunately somebody who has been assaulted or like harassed, not just by black men, but I would say that the black men were definitely more aggressive when they were doing it versus the white men that were trying to be pervs and predators. They were more like subtle with their grooming and stuff versus a lot of black men where it's like, oh no, they're just straight up going to try to do it. Like I literally had a black guy, he tried to pull down my skirt one time, but just in public, just literally just crazy as fuck. I remember I was walking down the steps going somewhere and there were guys lined up on the steps on both sides. So I already knew what was up. I already knew, like, oh shit, this is not going to go well. And so as I was walking with my skirt and my little blazer on, and I had on heels, a crazy ass black man literally puts his hands on my skirt and yanks my shit down. He literally just yanks down my skirt. So that's what I mean when I say lack of sexual discipline. It's literally to the point of violence, or to the point of aggression, you know, throwing drinks on me and shit, trying to yank down my skirt. Like, I've just had crazy shit. I've had a guy try to put his hand down my pants. This is like a mixed black guy. I've had a guy try to put his hand down my pants before when I was a teenager. Also, same guy later on, he tried to like take my bra off before, just randomly. So lots of sexually deviant behaviors that I've noticed when it came to my encounters with black men. So whether he was a mixed black guy or an unambiguous black guy, I've noticed that pattern. The next thing I've noticed is both mommy and daddy issues. So when it comes to the black men that have tried to date me, I've noticed a pattern where sometimes their mothers will actually be so overbearing to the point where his mother will actually contribute to me not wanting to talk to him. So, for example, in the case of the one ex where his mom is like calling me and Facebooking me and shit, I'm like, this is extreme behavior. Why is your mother that involved in your sexual relationships, or your girlfriend and all that shit? Like, that's just weird to me. I've also had, actually, that same boyfriend, he was really obsessed with like me getting along with his mom. And I got along with his mom fine because I'm just nice. But I noticed that he would actually like really, really pressure me to like really jump through hoops with his mother. I've noticed a lot of black men have narcissistic black mothers. Sorry, not sorry. But I've noticed a lot of them have kind of these narcissist black mothers. And so sometimes the men, if they don't pick up those narcissistic qualities, they might be like a mama's boy, to where they're not looking for a wife. They're not looking for a girlfriend. They're looking for a replacement mommy. So that's one of the mommy issues I've noticed with a lot of black men. You know, they want you to cook for him, clean for him, iron his clothes, basically build him up, apply for scholarships for him, pay his college tuition, pay his bills and shit. So I've noticed mama's boys, like a pattern of like a lot of mama's boys, where they're very codependent on women, both emotionally as well as financially, and then also the daddy issues as well. So with a lot of the black men I've encountered, a lot of them have not had father figures. This is actually what led me to stop dating guys from the hood, just in general, or guys that do not come from two parent homes in general, because I've noticed that even if he comes from a single parent home, let's say his father passed away. So like, I've dated a guy where his father passed away. I've noticed that the men who don't have father figures, generally speaking, don't know how to be a father, don't know how to be a husband, don't know how to be a provider, don't know how to have conflict resolution skills. So that's something I've noticed with black men in particular. It's both the mommy issues as well as the daddy issues, versus when I look at the other races of men that I've dated, where maybe they might have one or the other, but it's not both. Oftentimes they will have both, like a toxic relationship with his mother and also a toxic relationship with his father, or no relationship with his father, to the point where he didn't have a male role model. And that's one of the next points of why a lot of black guys have not made it past a certain point with me. It is the lack of role models for me. I've actually heard black guys kind of like express pride in the fact that like no one taught them anything. Like, I ain't got to look up to nobody. I ain't thinking about what nobody else is doing. I don't need nobody else to tell me what to do. It's like, okay, so dude, you're saying that you had no male role model. So who taught you how to be a man? Who are you following? Who did you grow up looking up to? Because if you can't name anyone, then I'm going to automatically assume that you're just following whatever you see on mainstream media, which tells me that you're not a logical thinker, you're not a critical thinker, you're not analytical, you didn't have anybody that was teaching you anything. So you basically are a follower. So that's another thing I've noticed, unfortunately, with a lot of black guys, is a lot of them are just followers, like just following whatever they see other random men doing. And I believe that it stems back to not having positive male role models in their lives. So not having a father. If they did grow up in a church environment, we all know that churches are majority women. So like for myself, I had a lot of positive female role models when I was growing up. So I had my mom. I had like different older cousins who were basically like sisters to me. There were female pastors in the church or whatever. So that kind of stuff really helped me a lot. I had a lot of positive female role models of all races and backgrounds and socioeconomic statuses, and that was positive. My grandma, like my mom's mom, she was a positive role model. But I've noticed with a lot of black guys, whether he's a biracial black guy or a monoracial black guy, I will ask them like, okay, who are your role models? Who were your male role models growing up? And they can't name anyone. And some of them will even flex the fact that they have no guidance in life. And I'm thinking that's horrible. That means that you are actually at the bottom because you had no guidance. You didn't have anyone to teach you. You have basically no privileges. Having guidance as a young man, that is a huge privilege. Having somebody who is investing in you, somebody who loves you, who can like teach you how to be a man, how to be a good man. And I also have a psychological theory that this is why a lot of black guys were following Kevin Samuels, because a lot of those black men, they had no father figures, they had no self-esteem or anything, and they had no male role models. And so they kind of latched on to Kevin Samuels. And that's what I'm trying to prevent on this channel. That's why I tell you guys, all the girls watching this channel, I am not like your mother. Don't look to me as an advice channel. Do not start following me like this is a cult or something. Everything I say, this is just me speaking on my experience. I'm not on a pedestal. Don't put me on a pedestal, because I notice that the people who don't have any positive role models, sometimes they will over pedestalize the wrong people. And I've seen this pattern with black men where they didn't have father figures, so they will over pedestalize NBA players, rappers, reality TV show guys or whatever. Whoever is around them, they will put them on too high of a pedestal because they don't have diverse role models in their life. Another random reason why a lot of black guys have not made it far with me is because I put this on my phone. Can't speak English well and have inferiority complexes. I know I speak really aggressively on here. I try to let my little black accent, I try to let it come out on here as much as possible. But no, I've noticed that when it comes to a lot of black guys, a lot of them are not articulate. And I'm not trying to like be disrespectful, because I know that you can't help where you were born, you can't help where you're from. But a lot of black guys that I've been around, even if they are college educated or they've got good jobs and stuff, just a lot of the black guys that I've encountered, they're not as articulate as I am. And that's very important to me. For me personally, when it comes to dating and stuff, I need someone who's a good communicator. I need someone who's very good at communicating their emotions. And I've noticed this is a huge weak point in the black community. I've never heard, not a black man or a black woman, I've never heard like a lot of black people just speaking out their emotions freely. So for example, when I think of a black guy saying, hey, I'm falling for you, I'm falling in love with you, I really want to be with you, and saying that to your face, not via text, not via a phone call, but like expressing your emotions, or hey, I'm really starting to like you, I would love to like take you out sometime, I think we really get along well, just freely being able to express how you feel. I've noticed a lot of black men and even some black women, because some of my friends who are black girls, some of them actually have this problem as well with expressing their emotions to their toxic mothers or their toxic fathers or their brothers, their sisters, their family members. I notice in the black community, whenever I'm interacting with friends and family and stuff, there is just a lack of being able to articulate yourself, or a lack of being able to articulate your emotions. And by the way, none of the stuff that I'm saying is only exclusive to the black community, but this video is just about the black community. So that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. But yeah, being able to express how you feel towards me, that's very important. So I noticed one thing that would eliminate black men in dating, them not being able to admit when they like me or they have a crush on me or something like that. Like when I think of other races of men and how they've interacted with me, kind of the flirting stage, the talking stage, they will tell me, I like you. So they may not say, I'm in love with you, because maybe they're not in love yet or whatever. But if they like me, they'll say it. They'll be like, oh yeah, I really like you. Or like, I have a crush on you, or I have feelings for you, or like I'm developing feelings for you, or whatever. But I've noticed with black men, it's almost as if a lot of them try to like play it cool, where it's like, they don't want to express, like they're too cool to like express how they feel. And so I've actually had multiple occasions throughout my life where a black guy maybe he likes me and maybe I like him or something, but then I might be thinking, oh, he doesn't like me because he hasn't expressed it or said it or whatever. He may act like it, but he hasn't verbally expressed it. And so then I will like move on, obviously I'll talk to somebody else and then I'll end up getting a boyfriend. And then this guy will come back and be like, oh no, but I really liked you a lot, or I really wanted to date you, or I thought you liked me, or, it's almost as if a lot of Black men, they wait until it's too late to express how they feel. And unfortunately, I've actually noticed this even with some of my Black male family members where he waited until it was too late and then his dad died or his brother died or his uncle died and he never expressed to him that he loved him, or even Black family members where they don't say I love you to each other and stuff like that. I've been around stuff like that even in my family, like in my extended family. And so not expressing your emotions, that hinders you from being able to make emotional connections. It hinders you from making strong bonds with people. I've noticed that a lot of Black men, they don't know how to emotionally bond in a positive way. A lot of them only know how to trauma bond. So they will try to argue with you so that they can form a trauma bond with you. That's their only way of bonding with you sometimes. It's via arguing. It's via like getting on your nerves on purpose or nitpicking you because they're hoping that they can like get your attention by like being mean. And so yeah, that's another reason why a lot of them never make it past a certain point, because it's important to me to have somebody that expresses how they feel, just because I know that actions speak louder than words, but guess what? Words are still important as well. The fuck? You're not going to be in my presence and not compliment me? The fuck? Anyway, another thing I've noticed is inferiority complexes. So I've been around Black guys, both biracial Black guys as well as monoracial Black guys, where they'll have everything going for them, looks, money, status, you graduated college, limited debt. Like I've been around Black guys where maybe they don't have any debt or they paid off their debt. They're very good with finances. You guys know that I was an accountant. So I've been around a lot of like more professional Black guys, but I've noticed that some of them still have this inferiority complex where they will still find a way to jump through hoops and play mental gymnastics in order to make themselves into a victim. So it's like, okay, if you are literally at the top 20% of men in income in the United States of America, you are statistically one of the richest people in the world. And then you have the audacity to try to put yourself as like some sort of victim where it's like, oh, I can't go to a certain neighborhood because like I'm going to get shot. And I'm thinking, wait, you're not a thug though. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm not trying to like invalidate it as if people can't be racist, but I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're a professional. You don't even wear clothing that even resembles anyone from quote unquote the hood. You're not even from the hood. Your parents aren't from the hood. Have you ever even been to the hood? Like, do you even know anything about the hood? So I've been around Black guys where there's nothing hood about them at all. They'll literally be like a Barack Obama type of guy. And then they're still talking about the hood and stuff as if they can relate to that, or as if they're like somehow still inferior. And it's like, okay, I can't deal with this, because if you are someone who I am viewing as being upwardly mobile and successful, but then you still don't even view yourself as successful, oh no, it's the lack of confidence for me. Because then what's going to happen when I become successful, or, when I am hyping myself up, then you're going to take that as me being conceited. And so I just can't deal with the inferiority complex. I don't want to have to deal with like walking on eggshells. And then it's like, I can't say certain things because then he's going to get offended, or he's going to get offended on behalf of other people where he doesn't even share their experience. I can't do that. And so that's another pattern I've noticed. It's like this constant inferiority complex, no matter how high you get. Like imagine if you are Michelle Obama, you're in Michelle Obama's position dating Barack Obama, and then Barack Obama says, oh, I'm going to get shot if I walk around in a certain neighborhood. It's like, wait, are you joking? Like, if you're joking, okay, fine. But if you're actually serious to where you're like, oh, I'm such a victim, I'm so underprivileged, it's like, okay, well, yeah, no, I don't want to be associated with you then, because why would I choose to be underprivileged? Nobody who has logical sense is going to choose to tie their life to someone who is underprivileged. So that's another reason why a lot of Black men don't make it far, or they haven't really made it far with me, because it's this constant victim mentality. And it's like, okay, I want to live the soft life. I'm over here living my best life. I want to go on vacations. I want to hang out by the pool. I want to go to the beach. I don't want to worry about being killed. I don't want to worry about my boyfriend or husband or whatever being killed. That doesn't sound like a fun conversation. It's literally you're sucking the fun out of everything. You're sucking away my carefree spirit. I'm a very carefree person in real life. And I feel like people who have inferiority complexes, they're constantly complaining. They're complaining about everybody being racist, everybody's colorist, everyone's texturist, everyone's anti-black, everyone's anti-male. And so it's actually exhausting for me. It sucks away all the fun. It drains my emotional energy. So that's another reason why a lot of Black guys don't make it past a certain point, because I don't want to talk about trauma 24/7. And I've also noticed that guys who have inferiority complexes, he's constantly comparing himself to a white man. So it's like, even if he is a guy with money, he might compare himself to like a white man with money, or like some other type of man with money, an Asian man with money, a Hispanic man with money. And I'm thinking, dude, you're literally promoting how attractive this other guy is in comparison to you. Are you sure you want to keep doing that? That would be like, as a woman, if I'm constantly calling out my flaws and talking about how all these other women, they're so much prettier than me and have a way better personality and they're so much better in all these other areas. It's like you're literally convincing me to view you as being at the bottom. You're literally convincing me to view you as beneath other men. And so that's what, yeah, I can't deal with that. Inferiority complexes. Another thing that I've noticed about the Black men that I've dated is rivalry with other Black men, like extreme rivalry with other Black men. So I've noticed a lot of Black guys, whenever I've dated them, they've been very possessive over me, without me being their girlfriend, by the way. So like there was this one guy that he was the first and last Nigerian guy that I ever went on a date with. So he was like a light-skinned Nigerian guy. I didn't know that this sounds extremely ignorant, but I had never seen a Nigerian guy like him. So he was like a light-skinned Nigerian guy. And I remember we literally went on one date. And after one date, this guy, he's texting my phone all the time, calling me all the time. He's like getting mad at me because I didn't text him or I didn't respond to his text. Just insane behavior. And he basically had this mindset of, if we go on one date, then like you're mine and I don't want you to talk to other guys. He was like scared that I would talk to other guys and shit. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, we only went on one date, like we're not boyfriend and girlfriend. So like, what are you doing? But I've actually noticed that pattern with a lot of Black men in the past, where there's this idea of them being territorial over me when we're not exclusively dating. So it's like, just because you're mad at my desirability, or you're mad because you, I guess, have competition. I feel like a lot of Black guys, they view other Black guys, like other attractive Black guys, as their rivals or as like their competitors. I've also noticed a similar dynamic with a lot of Black women who, they get mad at this channel for existing because they literally see me as their competition. So in my opinion, that kind of shows like a lack of individuality. But yeah, that's another reason. Just insane territorial behavior when we're not even in a relationship. Something else I noticed with Black guys is an extreme Madonna whore complex. So for a lot of Black guys, if you are not a wife and a mother or pursuing that, then you are automatically a whore. There's no in between. So you're either a wife and mother, like the wholesome woman, or you're a complete whore and you're trash and you're a slut and you're like a bitch. So just very extreme, like limiting mindset or limiting beliefs about women. Like if you're pretty, you're automatically a whore. I've noticed with a lot of Black guys. Like if you're seen as desirable, I've noticed a lot of Black guys, they will get scared of like that I'm fucking somebody, or that I'm gonna like cheat or something like that. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. So basically, because I'm not a wife and mother, because I'm like a child-free woman who is non-religious, you automatically associate that with, oh no, she's a whore then. She has an OnlyFans. This reminds me of the Black guys online where they're like, oh, these are modern women. They all have OnlyFans accounts and they're all like Instagram thoughts. And I'm thinking, yeah, not every pretty woman is automatically going to do sex work. Like this is how I know that a lot of those guys are incels, because you're literally stereotyping every single beautiful woman in the world as, oh, she must automatically be a whore. Another thing that I wrote down about my dating experiences with Black guys is they don't pursue their dreams and then get angry when they don't achieve them. So this actually happened to me with one of my exes. So he was like a mixed race Black guy. So he had all of these different ideas. I've noticed this pattern where where a lot of black guys that have tried to talk to me, they're so good at talking. In fact, I would say that's one of the positives or whatever. Like I can see why women would be attracted to that because a lot of them they're very smooth talkers, very funny. Like I love their sense of humor and stuff. But I've been around a lot of black men where they will talk the big talk. So they'll have all these dreams and goals and oh, I'm going to do real estate investing. I'm going to graduate from college. I'm going to go back and get my master's. I'm going to get a PhD. I'm going to do all this. But then when you kind of follow up with them or like as time goes on, you don't see them taking any action to like achieve those things. And then if you call it out, then they will bring up their blackness as a hindrance. Like, oh, I can't do it because, they don't want to give out loans to black men. Oh, no, I can't do this because so and so racist person at my job, he doesn't want to promote me. Another thing I notice with black guys that I've dated is they need too much help. Help with applying for grants, help with applying for scholarships. They need you to financially support them while they're getting their master's, getting their doctorate, while they're finishing medical school. So just I feel like a lot of times dealing with a black guy, you're like walking in on a halfway done construction project where it's like he's basically going to be a project is what I've noticed with a lot of the black guys that have tried to talk to me. And so that's a part of why they end up kind of falling on the back burner or getting eliminated. So when it comes to divestment, it's not like I purposely was like, oh, let me eliminate blackness or something, or let me pedestalize whiteness. No, it was more so literally they just didn't make it past, a lot of them just didn't make it past the first round or whatever because they're too much of a work in progress from what I've seen. And so if you go into relationships with them, in fact, a lot of women in my family love black men actually. So on my mom's side of the family, like a lot of them are with black guys and a lot of them are doing a lot of work. They're doing 50-50 relationships. It's a hypogamous marriage. I've noticed a pattern where a lot of unambiguous black women or just women of any race who get with the black guy, they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting in that relationship, both financially as well as emotionally. And so that's something that I've kind of observed, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend my life as a bang maid or some sort of free therapist. Do you know how many guys have tried to use me as their free therapist? Usually it's some sort of black guy, whether he's a mixed black guy, biracial black guy, or like an unambiguous guy that's trying to talk to me. Oh, yeah. So I've just noticed that they just need a lot of help. A lot of them, like I said, this stems from their mommy and daddy issues, from what I've noticed. So, like I said, when I've dated guys from other backgrounds, maybe they might have one, maybe they have either a mommy problem or a daddy problem, but it's not both. Like, oh, I got mommy issues, got daddy issues, got racism issues, colorism, texturism, featureism issues. I'm at the bottom. My women don't like me. There's a gender war between black men and women. I'm going to get killed when I'm walking down the street. I'm like, oh my God, like you don't need to be dating. You literally need to be in a therapist's office right now. You need to be in an institution right now. Like, why are you even dating? That's a question that I find myself asking a lot of times when I used to deal with like a lot of black guys or when I was like more open to a lot of black guys. I would constantly find myself asking, why is he even trying to date? Like, why does he even think that anybody would want him? Because he's literally telling me all of his problems and how fucked up his life is, how he's not where he wants to be financially. So to me, that's just extremely unattractive. So that is one of the main things that automatically eliminated black men from my dating pool in a lot of cases. Because I'm like, I don't want to get into a situation where it's like a mother and son type of thing where I'm going to be doing all the heavy lifting and I just have to help him. He's just this work in progress. And oh, it took 20 years. Like this is something else I noticed with the women in my family who are married to black men and they've been married for a long time. They'll be like, oh, well, he's grown so much and, we went through a lot, but we finally made it out on the other side. And I'm thinking, that's not a good promotion of marriage. Like that actually sounds horrible. So how many decades do I have to waste until he becomes emotionally mature? How much time do I have to go through? How many gray hairs do I have to develop? How much weight do I have to gain? How many bills do I have to pay until I finally feel like he's an equal to me? That just it never sounded appealing when a lot of the women around me who were married to black men would make comments like that. And by the way, this is mainly in the church. Like I told you guys, my dad and my dad's family, a lot of them are pastors and stuff, going back literally all the way to like the 1800s. Fun fact, I actually have a well-known civil rights activist in my family, on my dad's side. So yay. But anyway, no, like looking back, a lot of the women who were married to black guys and stuff, they would make comments like that, like about how hard it was and how they like overcame it. So I definitely agree when I see these women talking about kind of the ride or die rhetoric, because I see black men talking about that. I don't really see any other groups of men talking about that. I'm not going to say that they don't, but I would just say it's different because the non-black guys, they at least have something going for them, generally speaking. And I'm not trying to be like racist, but yeah, generally speaking, a lot of the black guys will have literally nothing going for them. Like I'm talking bad credit. And I will be thinking to myself, like, wait a minute, if I had the income you have, if I had the job you have, if I had the status you have, I would do so much with that. And so this is why I say that some of them lack logical thinking skills, or they lack social strategy, because that's something else that has eliminated them in the past. Because I'm thinking, okay, so he still has bad credit and he makes 250K, or like, his house is fucked up. Like he went and spent all this money to buy a house and then he just lets the house become dilapidated and like just messed up. So it's a lack of social strategy. It's a lack of knowing how to navigate to become upwardly mobile. I feel like a lot of the black guys that I encountered, a lot of them were trying to utilize me as a social climbing tool. So whether he was a biracial black guy, mixed black guy, unambiguous, whatever. And so I noticed that a lot of men, just in general, but especially black men too, cannot social climb without the help of women. And so that's another thing that kind of turned me off, because I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not a stepping stone. I'm not your social ladder. Like, no. Another thing that I wrote down about black men, by the way, sorry if you hear like a lawnmower in the background. Another thing that I wrote down is they think they're special for being basic, such as having no criminal history, comparing themselves to black thugs, yet incomparable to men of other groups. So oh my God, I'm petty for that one. But no, I have noticed a lot of black guys will promote having basic things such as having your own house, having your own apartment, having a paid off car, paying your bills on time. I'm kind of like, well, that those things are great. I mean, I hope that you have those things, or I hope that you're attaining those things or trying to work towards them. But that doesn't mean that you're like top tier or you're automatically top level, unless of course you're only comparing yourself to dusty thugs. And I feel like a lot of black guys forget that women have other options besides them. Dude, you're just you have an apartment and a car, like, or maybe you own a house, but your house is like, I don't want that, like I'm not impressed basically. So I've noticed that a lot of black guys, they think that a lot of stuff is very impressive when it's actually not that impressive to me, coming from my background. Something else that I said was codependency and bragging about basic things like owning a home, having a car. And then I said they don't know what the soft life is, and they tend to think that women don't deserve it. That's another pattern I noticed with a lot of black guys, kind of not knowing what the soft life is. So they'll be thinking, oh no, you're a wife, so you need to like do all of these responsibilities, or you need to cook and clean, you need to do XYZ. They kind of come out of the gate sometimes telling you what they're expecting, or kind of talking about what women need to do. So there have been a lot of black guys that have been immediately eliminated from my dating pool, because I will hear him speaking about women, and then he'll start saying things like, well, what does she bring to the table? And then I'll be thinking in my mind, oh yeah, absolutely never. And so then later on, if that guy tries to hit on me, I will automatically reject him, because I already know his mindset, because he says, he'll say stupid stuff like that. And it makes me realize, oh yeah, these guys, they don't know what the soft life is, or they don't know how to spoil a woman. Or if they do spoil the woman, they will purchase things for her, but then they will go and cheat on her. That's something I noticed about a lot of Nigerian guys, or like diaspora. I call them diaspora dusties. I got that from the divestment people. But yeah, I've noticed a lot of the guys who do spoil women, they tend to be non-African American, and then they will like cheat on them and stuff. And so I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm good. I want to live a soft life. Living a soft life for me means that I am emotionally safe. And so being cheated on, that's not fun. I don't care if you're a trillionaire. I'm not going to stay with a cheater. I'm not going to sit around and be cheated on. That does not help my emotional state. That does not make me feel good. No, I'm not one of those women that's like, oh, I don't care, we can get over it. No, I can't do it. I can't open my legs to a guy that I know just was fucking and sucking somebody else, or me worrying and stressing about who is he texting, what's he doing, where is he at. Absolutely not. I can't do it. Another thing that eliminated Black men from my dating pool is Black women value optics and image more than who the man is behind the scenes. So, like, after I observed a lot of Black women who were with Black men, I noticed that a lot of those Black women spent more time trying to save their marriage or save the image of their marriage. Simone Biles. A lot of those women, they spend all this time trying to kind of defend their relationship or convince everybody else that their marriage is good. Kind of like that woman who went viral for saying, God restored my marriage after infidelity. She was married to a Black guy or some sort of mixed Black guy. I can't remember, but he was Black or Black adjacent. And so I noticed that. And that also made me turned off towards Black men, because I noticed, like, oh, wait a minute, whenever women get in relationships with them, those women, they seem to do a lot of work trying to save the image of their marriage, kind of valuing the optics of their relationship as opposed to like it actually looks good. To be fair, though, this is why I say to decenter men as a whole, because like I said, this video about Black men, I'm going to be making one of these about all the different men. So yeah, that's something I noticed though. And then I wrote down some examples like Kiki Palmer, Fantasia, Kelly Rowland. A lot of Black women are hypogamous. Another interesting thing I noticed was, if you are familiar with Boyce Watkins, the financial guy, so I actually have a lot of respect for his financial advice and stuff. I like the vibe. Like I get what he's trying to do. But one thing I noticed was even Boyce Watkins' wife said that she would date a bus driver. So that tells me about the type of mindset that is required to be with a Black guy, even if it's a Black guy like with money, or a Black guy who tries to come off as more classy, kind of like a Boyce Watkins, kind of this intellectual Black guy. So that was interesting because their relationship dynamic, and by the way, I'm not shading their relationship at all, but I noticed that relationship dynamic actually reminded me of a lot of the women that I've been around as well, where even if they're with a Black guy who, maybe he's considered higher level, or he has money, or he's nice, he's respectable, a lot of those women seem to have just a different mindset than me. So I'm not necessarily saying like, oh, their relationships suck. I'm just saying it seems like there's a different type of mindset that is required to deal with a Black guy, whether he has money, has no money. I just noticed a lot of Black guys, they expect you to do a lot of work and stuff like that, or they expect you to have this mindset of it's okay to settle, or like you have to settle in certain areas. And I get it. Like when you're getting married, you are technically settling in one area or another, because that man is going to have flaws. And this is exactly why I support the decentering men rhetoric in general. But yeah, so that's something else I noticed that was interesting. A lot of Black women are either hypogamous, or if the guy makes money, she's still working. It's not like she's just sitting around at the pool sipping on mimosas or something. No, she still has to go work her job, or like be a bang maid, or, just kind of deal with maybe cheating or whatever. So that's something else that turned me off. Another interesting thing that I noticed about dating habits is I see a lot of exoticals with the quote unquote attractive Black guys. So, for example, the buff, dark skinned Black guys. I see a lot of those types of Black guys with light skinned Black women, or mixed race Black women, or even the darker skinned women who have kind of these keener features and this looser hair texture. So, I do believe that a lot of the anger that unambiguous Black women have had has been because a lot of the exoticals seem to be pulling the quote unquote attractive Black guys. And I'm just talking about physically attractive. And this is something that I talked about on Patreon and in the members page. And this came from me doing a people watching experiment where I watched thousands of Black people. So I went to all these different Black events and stuff, and I was just people watching. I was being a creepy article. But that's something I noticed, is a lot of exoticals seem to attract the more attractive or handsome Black guys or whatever. Another random fun fact, I personally have stopped wearing Afrocentric hairstyles because I get too much attention from unambiguous Black men. I've noticed that whenever I wear an Afrocentric hairstyle, such as some sort of fake Afro puff, some sort of like braided or locked, anything that looks very Afrocentric. So anything that is not type 1, 2, or 3 hair, if I wear anything that resembles a type 4 hair texture, the black men start, I get a lot of attention from the black men. And I've noticed that black men, they seem to associate type 4 hair with pro-Blackness and hotep shit. And that's not necessarily bad. But I've noticed that I just draw more attention when I'm wearing more of these type 4 hairstyles or kind of these natural looking, Afrocentric looking hairstyles. And so it's almost as if it's almost as if your hair is a cultural signal to black men sometimes. So that's another thing I've noticed actually with the lace front thing. This is a part of why I also don't wear the bust down lace front thing, because I noticed if I do wear one of those straight long wigs, then I do also get a lot more attention from black men in particular. So it's almost as if black men are looking at women's hair or looking at what hairstyle they have and then determining, oh, okay, she likes black guys. And I've noticed a lot of black men, they've made that mistake with myself. And then I'll be thinking to myself, okay, why do they keep talking to me when I have this particular hairstyle? So yeah, that's another just interesting thing I noticed. Another thing that turned me off though about black men and why they have not made it is they're obsessed with having children, obsessed with getting me pregnant or me having their children. And I'm not saying like being a baby mama. No, no, no. I just mean obsessed with having children in general. So they'll be obsessed with like me marrying them and then having their children, because I've noticed a lot of black guys believe that this is their only shot at having a legacy. It's by, me giving them my womb. And so I've noticed a lot of guys who have not achieved a lot in life, or maybe they don't feel like they've left a legacy. They'll have this obsession with like me having their children or me like being their wife and having their kids, because they feel like that's the only way they're going to kind of pass down their genes. Or sometimes I've had black guys, kind of more successful black guys in the finance field, and maybe they already have a kid or something like that. And then they're hoping, so they'll have a kid and a baby mama from when they were younger, or because some woman, she tried to maybe latch herself onto him somehow, and maybe he tried to do that to her as well, whatever the case may be. And then he'll try to have a redo with me. So then suddenly he wants to get married when I'm in the picture, suddenly. So he went from being a degenerate, and then he thinks that I am going to fall for it. And I'm not stupid, but I've noticed a lot of guys, they will try to pressure me. Lots of black men in particular, they love pressuring me into marrying him and having his kids, and especially if he already has a kid or something like that. And this is a part of what also made me not date guys with kids. But yeah, they're hoping that I will be their redo woman. They're hoping that I will restore their image. They're hoping that, they messed up in the past and now they're looking to like have a wife and have kids. And so, Exoticals United, she's the perfect candidate for that. And I'm like, nope, it's not working, because I'm not stupid. And I've noticed a lot of times they'll do this because they want to save their image, they want a redo, or they're hoping that I can birth their children so that they can live vicariously through their sons. Another thing I've noticed is kind of somewhat of a genetic obsession. So I've noticed a lot of black men, they will make comments about my genetics, not just my phenotype, but also my intelligence. I don't think I'm the smartest person in the world, but I've had a lot of black guys in particular, they'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're child free. You would make such a great mom. You'd be an amazing mom. I'd be honored if you had my kid. I'd be honored if we got married and you had my baby. And even if we didn't work out, even if you still were just the mother of my child, I would still be honored that like such a smart woman. I know my kids would be well off if you were their mom. Oh yeah, you'd be so great at this. I don't like that, because it's giving fetish. It's giving you're trying to actually baby trap me. I've noticed a lot of black guys, they want to trap me. And I don't want to say like all of them are automatically trying to trap me, but I have definitely noticed that black men in particular, they are just pressuring me, really want me to marry them, really want me to have their baby, really want me to like be a baby mama in some cases. So yeah, no, I'm good. The next thing I said is they're scared to go after what they want. So they let the bottom tier women chase them. So yeah, I've noticed that. So they'll let the pick-me's chase them, but then they're not satisfied with the pick-me's. They'll still try to come after somebody like me who's child free. So like, for example, with the Christian black guy, I've asked him, why are you still chasing after me? Go get a woman in the church. Oh yeah, I forgot to say this. So with the Christian guy, the guy who was like a finance professional, he would be perfect for one of the pick me church women. I was literally like, there are thousands of women that go to your church. You go to a mega church in this city. Why are you not with one of them? And then he literally said, oh, it's because of how they look, because they don't look like you, basically. So, because of my quote unquote sex appeal, which is not godly, by the way, because you're supposed to be modest and whatever. So, it's like, you you don't want to be with the pick me women. You don't want to go after what you really want, which apparently is someone like me, because it goes against your religion or whatever, but then you still secretly do. It's this cognitive dissonance that I've noticed. So they won't go after what they really want, or they will let the pick me's chase them, but then they're not satisfied with the pick me's. So, like with that guy, he wasn't satisfied with these homely church women. He wasn't satisfied with the natural, the natural beauty, the natural hair, natural lashes, whatever. He wanted the IG baddie look. I don't think that I have an IG baddie look, but I do feel like sometimes I kind of do. I don't have the baby hairs, but I just feel like sometimes maybe my phenotype can give me that look, or my body type, my clothes. I don't know. A lot of these guys, they won't go after what they want. They will let these bottom tier pick me women chase after them, but then they'll still be chasing me. And I'm like, dude, you're married. Like in the case with the guys in the church as well. One of them, it's like, you're a pastor. Why the fuck are you asking another woman to hang out with you and go out when you're a pastor? Or it's like, dude, your friend, she really likes you. She wants you to marry her. So why are you asking me to like twerk on you, or you're trying to hang out with me? I remember there was another guy, actually. He was another Christian black guy. One of my friends, this girl, she really liked him. I didn't know that she liked him, but apparently he liked me. So I'm thinking, dude, you have a girl right next to you who likes you. So you're letting the pick me's chase you, but then you still want to chase the non pick me. So it's like, okay, you want kids, but then you're still chasing me, knowing that I'm child free. So that's another thing I've noticed with a lot of black guys, scared to go after what they want. Or they will let the bottom tier women chase them. They'll let the pick me's chase them, but then they won't pay them any mind. And then they'll still come after the decentered women. Like to this day, I still have men on this channel. I have tried so hard to like repel men off of this channel. I have a 45-part decentering men series on this channel, but they still come on this channel. They'll still email me or whatever. Another thing I put was struggling with narcissism. I feel like I have to walk on eggshells around black men sometimes. So whether he's a biracial black man, multiracial black man, unambiguous black man, I have sometimes felt like their social cues, or like their ability to pick up on my social cues, have been different. So this is a part of where culture comes into play. This is why I don't date guys from the ghetto or like from the hood, or if they are monoculturally black, then I can't deal with them, I've noticed, because they don't have the same sense of humor as me. They don't have the same conversation and talking points as me. So yeah, I don't want to have to walk on eggshells. But anyway, that is what my dating experience has taught me about black guys in particular. That's what I've noticed about the dating culture of black men, whether he's a biracial black man, multiracial black man, light skinned black man, or dark skinned black man. That's the overarching theme that I've noticed. As far as making it to boyfriend level, none of the unambiguous black men have ever made it to boyfriend level. But the other types of black men, whether it's a light skinned black guy, biracial black guy, they've made it like to boyfriend level before. But yeah, that is something that I've noticed, though. That's a commonality I've noticed amongst all of the black guys that I've been around. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.